Welcome, dear dreamer, to another night with whispers of the night. Tonight, we invite you to set aside the worries of the day, to soften your mind and let your thoughts drift like gentle clouds across a quiet sky. Here, in the calm of your own space, we will wander together into a world where dreams are more than visions. They are paths waiting to be walked. Take a deep, slow breath in and exhale softly. Feel your shoulders loosen, your hands relax, and your heart begin to slow. This is your time, a time to rest, to let imagination guide you, to allow the magic of dreams to reach out and touch your mind if you haven't yet. Subscribe to Whispers of the Night to join our nightly journey through magical stories, calming whispers, and sleepy adventures. Each evening, we will explore worlds of wonder, soft voices, and peaceful imaginings, just like tonight. Now, let your eyes grow heavy. Let your body sink comfortably, and know that each step you are about to take will carry you gently into a night of beauty, calm, and quiet adventure. Together, we will step softly into the world of dreams, where every story begins and every heart finds its peace. Breathe in slowly and let the air fill your chest. Exhale gently and feel the day's tension melt away. With each breath, imagine your toes curling softly, your fingers loosening, your shoulders dropping. You are safe. You are calm. Picture a quiet river of silver light stretching before you. Its waters shimmer like stars reflected in a midnight sky. Step closer and notice a pair of shoes lying gently at the riverbank, glowing with a soft, golden light. These are no ordinary shoes. They are waiting for you to walk, not along roads, but into the worlds of your dreams. Step into them slowly and feel the warmth of their glow. A comforting pulse through your feet, through your legs, through your heart. Imagine yourself lifting off the ground, walking upon a path of starlight. With every gentle step, the night opens up before you. Fields of floating lanterns drift lazily in the air. The sky stitches itself with ribbons of deep violet, blush, and silver, and a soft wind carries the scent of jasmine and rain. Hear the quiet rustle of leaves, the distant whisper of an owl, and the calm murmur of a hidden stream. Each sound is soft, distant, and soothing. Your body continues to relax. Your mind floats. Step forward and step again, the path stretching endlessly, illuminated by the golden glow of your magical shoes. Feel the calm settle deeper. With each step, the glowing path carries you further from the waking world. Stars shimmer beneath your feet. Lanterns sway above you. A gentle companion, a small cat of starlight pads beside you, its presence comforting, a reminder that you are never alone on this journey. Allow your breath to slow, your heartbeat to sync with the quiet rhythm of this night. The shoes guide you effortlessly, You glide through dream fields, drifting across silvery rivers, past gardens where colors shift softly with the wind. Every step, every sound, every shimmer of light relaxes you further. Let this calm fill your body. Let it carry you as you prepare for a night full of wonder, dreams, and gentle sleep. The shoes that walked on dreams, the cobbler's gift, Amaris had always been a child of wide eyes and wandering thoughts, a girl whose imagination refused to be tethered by the ordinary. The nights were the hardest for her, when the house fell silent and the moonlight pooled in soft, pale patches on her bedroom floor. Her small bed felt too big, the walls too close, and the world outside her window, a place she longed to touch but could not. She would lie awake for hours, tracing the silver outlines of tree branches against the sky, counting the rhythm of her own heartbeat, wishing somehow for sleep to arrive and carry her gently into dreams. But sleep, it seemed, had a stubborn mind of its own, and it had long since grown tired of visiting her. One evening, as the sky bled shades of amber and violet, and the first stars began to blink softly into existence, Amaris found herself restless once more. She tried the usual remedies, counting, humming, curling up with her favorite blanket, but each one failed to soothe her. Something inside her stirred, a quiet, unnameable longing, a pull toward something beyond the familiar walls of her home. And so, without conscious thought, she rose, tiptoeing past the slumbering forms of her parents, past the soft rumble of the street, and out into the evening air. The town was hushed, the kind of quiet that seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. Street lamps cast pools of golden light on the cobblestones, and the wind carried the delicate scent of lilacs and rain-soaked earth. Amaris wandered, drawn as if by some invisible thread, until she came upon a small shop tucked between buildings that leaned close to each other like old friends. Its windows glowed warmly, spilling amber light onto the street, and the faint scent of leather and polished wood drifted out to greet her. A wooden sign swayed gently above the door, etched with curling letters that read, "Eldon's Cobbler Shop." Curiosity tugged at her, and she pushed open the door. A soft chime rang, echoing into the quiet of the shop, and the smell of leather, wax, and something faintly magical wrapped around her like a warm cloak. The shop was cozy and labyrinthine, every surface covered with tools, spools of thread, stacks of leather, and half-finished shoes that seemed to hum with the echoes of journeys yet to come. Light flickered from a small lamp on a workbench in the center of the room, illuminating a man bent over a piece of supple leather. He was old, but there was a gentle steadiness to him, the kind of quiet presence that seemed to make the walls themselves relax. His hair was thin and gray, tucked beneath a worn cap, and his eyes were the color of soft brown earth, wise and kind. Amaris hesitated, feeling like she had stepped into a story that belonged to someone else. The cobbler looked up, his hands still, and studied her with a soft curiosity that made her chest tighten in a strange, comforting way. There was no surprise, no questioning of why a small child had appeared at his shop at this hour, only a quiet welcome, as though he had been expecting her all along. "You can see them, can't you?" he asked, his voice low and warm, carrying a cadence that felt like it had always belonged in the quiet of the night. Amaris blinked, unsure what he meant. "See what the paths you cannot walk in waking hours," he said, smiling faintly. "The places that wait only in dreams. Not everyone can see them. You can." Amaris felt a shiver run down her spine. She didn't know what to say, or if she even wanted to. She simply nodded, as though words would be too clumsy to hold the wonder that had settled inside her. The cobbler studied her a moment longer, then rose and moved to a shelf tucked against the far wall. He returned with a small, unassuming box, tied with a ribbon that glimmered faintly in the warm lamplight. "These are for you," he said softly, placing the box into her small hands. The weight of it was neither heavy nor light, but it seemed to pulse gently, as though alive. Amaris's fingers trembled as she untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside lay a pair of shoes unlike any she had ever seen. The leather seemed to shimmer with a light that was neither gold nor silver, but something between, as if the first light of dawn and the last glow of sunset had mingled and settled into these tiny, perfect shoes. "They are beautiful," she whispered, unable to tear her gaze away. "They are not for roads," the cobbler said, kneeling so that his eyes met hers. "Not for paths made of stone or mud or dust. They are for dreams. They will take you places your feet cannot reach, to journeys your heart longs for, but cannot yet find." Amaris's breath caught. The thought of such a gift, one that could carry her beyond the boundaries of the ordinary world, felt impossible, miraculous. She lifted one shoe, turning it over in her hands. It was soft, supple, and seemed to hum against her palm, as if eager to move, eager to carry her somewhere she had never been but always imagined. How do I use them?" she asked, voice barely more than a whisper. "Simply put them on," he said, "and follow where they lead. Do not fear what you find. There is no wrong path in a dream, only discoveries." The air in the shop seemed to shimmer as she slipped the shoes onto her small feet. They fit perfectly, as if they had been made for her alone. And the moment her toes touched the inner leather, a warmth spread up her legs and into her chest. It was a warmth that made her pulse quicken, a quiet excitement mingled with the soft tremor of anticipation. Outside, the wind shifted and the light from the lamp flickered. Amaris felt as though the walls of the shop had disappeared, replaced by a softness, a gentle blur of possibility. The cobbler's eyes twinkled as he leaned back against his workbench. "You are ready," he said simply. Amaris stepped forward, and the floor beneath her seemed to melt into a gentle mist. The shoes carried her first into a quiet hallway lined with bookshelves, each filled with volumes whose titles shimmered and changed as she passed. She saw her own thoughts reflected in the cover's dreams she had never voiced, fears she had never spoken aloud, and stories that had waited for her to notice them. The shoes seemed to know every longing she had tucked away, and they carried her past them all with a gentle, insistent grace. She walked further, and the world transformed. The shop faded behind her like a memory, and she found herself standing on a bridge woven of silver light, suspended over a river that shimmered with colors she could not name. Stars hovered close, glimmering like lanterns in a sky that felt intimate, as if the universe itself had bent to welcome her. A soft breeze carried the scent of unknown flowers and the distant echo of laughter, warm and inviting. The shoes, glowing faintly, seemed to guide her steps, urging her onward. Amaris realized she was no longer afraid. The restlessness that had driven her out of her home, that had left her tossing and turning night after night, had melted away. Here, in this luminous, shifting world, every heartbeat felt like a drum in time with possibility. Every step was a note in a melody only she could hear. She laughed softly, the sound scattering like fireflies across the stars, and the shoes carried her forward, deeper into a realm of wonder she had never dared to imagine. Hours or perhaps minutes passed, though time seemed meaningless here. She explored gardens where the flowers whispered secrets, forests where the trees bent gently to greet her, and valleys where streams sang lullabies older than the moon. Every corner of this world held a new discovery, and the shoes never faltered, never asked her where she thought she should go. They simply carried her faithfully into the unfolding story of her own dream. Eventually, the light began to soften, taking on the pale, tender hue of morning. The shoes slowed, and Amaris felt herself lifted gently back, as though on invisible wings, returning to the small cobbler's shop. She blinked, and the bridge of silver light, the singing streams, and the whispering flowers vanished, leaving her standing on the wooden floor, the box of shoes at her feet. The cobbler smiled at her, a quiet knowing in his eyes that spoke of journeys both begun and yet to come. "Remember," he said softly, "the shoes are yours whenever you need them, not for roads, not for streets, but for dreams. And every time you walk, you will carry a little of this world back with you." Amaris nodded, feeling a swell of gratitude so vast it made her chest ache. She looked down at the glowing shoes, now resting innocuously in their box, and felt a quiet certainty settle over her. Sleep would come tonight, not as an obligation or a demand, but as a gentle, willing companion, ready to carry her into realms she could scarcely imagine. As she left the shop, the first light of dawn touching her face, Amaris felt her heart lighter than it had ever been. The world seemed fuller, richer, and somehow kinder. She carried the memory of the cobbler, the magic of the shoes, and the promise of countless journeys into her waking life. And that night, when she finally lay down in her bed, she closed her eyes and felt herself walking once more not along streets or roads, but on paths woven from starlight and dreams, where anything was possible and wonder waited. First steps across the stars. Night had settled gently over Amaris's small house, painting her room in soft shadows and pale moonlight. The quiet hum of the world outside, rustling leaves, the distant bark of a dog, the whisper of the wind felt like a lullaby she had always known but had never been able to follow. Tonight, however, was different. Tonight, she had the shoes. She held them carefully in her hands, feeling the faint warmth radiating from the supple leather, a warmth that seemed to hum with quiet invitation. As soon as her toes slipped inside, a gentle glow enveloped her feet, soft and steady, as if the shoes themselves were breathing. She rose from her bed, hardly daring to breathe, and took her first tentative step. The floor beneath her melted into a river of starlight, flowing with colors she had never seen but somehow recognized. In the depths of her heart, each step sent a ripple of warmth up her legs, a feeling of safety and exhilaration all at once. She realized, almost with a gasp, that she was not walking on the wooden floor of her room anymore. Instead, she stood on a path woven entirely from light, a luminous ribbon stretching into a night sky embroidered with stars that seemed close enough to touch. Her shadow shimmered softly beneath her. Fields of floating lanterns drifted gently in the air, their warm glow reflecting in pools of light that hovered above the ground like miniature moons. Some lanterns were round, some tall and cylindrical, others shaped like flowers, each one humming faintly as if carrying whispered secrets from places unseen. They floated with purpose, as though guiding her steps, inviting her to explore, to follow wherever the dream might lead. Amaris felt her heart swell with a joy she had never known, the fear that had shadowed her waking hours, the fear of night. In its place was wonder, the kind of pure, unspoken awe that made her breath catch and her eyes widen with anticipation. She lifted her hands to touch a lantern, and it drifted closer, warm and alive beneath her fingertips, humming in harmony with the gentle glow of her shoes. The path turned then, winding upward in gentle spirals. The sky above shifted, colors bleeding into one another, as though someone had taken a painter's brush to the heavens. Ribbons of crimson, violet, and gold stretched across the horizon, dancing and twisting like threads in a tapestry too vast to comprehend. Amaris felt a thrill of delight in the beauty of it, a shiver that ran from the crown of her head to her toes. With every step, she felt herself lighter, freer, as if the shoes had loosened the invisible chains of worry and doubt that had held her captive in the waking world. Soon, she came to a bridge that seemed woven entirely from starlight, arching gracefully over a river of liquid silver. Below, the water sparkled with constellations, shifting and flowing as though the sky had descended to meet the earth. She hesitated, peering down at the glowing river, and the shoes pulsed with quiet encouragement. They seemed to whisper, not with words, but with warmth and rhythm, urging her forward. She took a deep breath and stepped onto the bridge. Each step sent tiny sparks cascading into the river below, like stars being born anew, and the soft, melodic hum of the shoes accompanied her, a lullaby meant just for her. Halfway across, the bridge curved unexpectedly, revealing a vast field beyond. It was a place where gravity itself seemed playful, where flowers floated like balloons and trees bent in slow, sweeping arcs, their branches adorned with blossoms that glimmered in the soft light. Some blossoms released trails of sparkling dust as they moved, and as Amaris passed, the dust swirled around her, tickling her skin with the faintest warmth. The air smelled of honey, rain, and something utterly unplaceable, a fragrance that seemed to exist only in dreams. She wandered through the field, feeling a sense of safety she had never known before. Every step was a discovery. Tiny creatures with wings of liquid light flitted past, leaving trails of luminous powder that painted the air in shimmering arcs. Amaris giggled softly, reaching out her hands, and one delicate creature, small, bird-like thing made entirely of soft golden light, landed on her shoulder. It chirped, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze, and nestled close. She realized she was not afraid of it, nor of the shadows that danced among the floating flora. Here, in this world, nothing wanted to harm her. Everything existed to guide, to marvel, to accompany. Time lost all meaning. Amaris wandered further and further, discovering rivers that glowed with pearlescent colors, caves that sparkled as though filled with millions of tiny stars, and hills that hummed faint, soothing tones when she stepped upon them. The shoes adapted to every surface, every twist of terrain, carrying her effortlessly across worlds that existed only in the limitless realms of imagination. She found herself laughing, singing, and sometimes simply standing still, marveling at the impossible beauty surrounding her. At one point, the path led her to a glade where the stars themselves seemed to bend downward, forming arches overhead that created a canopy of light. Beneath this celestial dome floated soft, translucent orbs, each containing faint, flickering visions of memories and dreams. She reached out and touched one, and a vision of her own laughter as a toddler danced inside it, glowing warmly. A tear slid down her cheek, not of sadness, but of awe and recognition, a connection to her own life she had never felt so deeply. The shoes pulsed with gentle warmth at her feet, as if sharing in her wonder, and Amaris realized they were more than a tool. They were a companion. They carried her not just through the dream world, but into the depths of herself, revealing courage, curiosity, and the quiet strength that had always been there, but hidden beneath the restless nights and waking anxieties. She felt as though every star she walked upon whispered a truth, that she was exactly where she belonged, even if only in this half-remembered, half-imagined world. Hours passed, or perhaps mere minutes, Yet Amaris felt no fatigue. The dream seemed endless, expansive, and mercifully gentle. She wandered into a quiet grove where a soft, shimmering mist curled along the ground. The mist rose to meet her feet as she walked, forming delicate spirals that glowed faintly, guiding her deeper into the grove. There, she found a pool of water as still as glass, reflecting the stars above so perfectly that it was impossible to tell where sky ended and water began. She knelt beside it, tracing the edge with her fingertips, and marveled at the clarity of the reflection. In it, she saw herself not just as she appeared in the waking world, small and restless, but as she truly was, a girl of courage, imagination, and infinite possibility. A soft, melodic hum rose from the pool, gentle and inviting, carrying the faint echo of all the places she had yet to explore. She felt herself drawn forward again, standing and letting the shoes guide her as they had from the very beginning. The glow at her feet was steady now, a calm assurance that she could go anywhere, see anything, and return safely when the time came. Before long, the field of floating lanterns returned, and she realized that the path had begun to curve back toward where she had started. Though part of her wanted to linger, to explore further, a deep, serene contentment settled in her chest. She understood that these first steps across the stars were only the beginning, that countless journeys awaited her in the nights to come. For the first time in her life, Amaris felt truly safe inside her own dreams. She had crossed the bridge between the ordinary and the extraordinary, and the knowledge of it filled her with a quiet, profound joy. As the first pale hints of dawn began to touch the horizon, she found herself once more in her small bedroom, the shoes resting softly on her feet, still glowing faintly with the echoes of the dream world. The gentle hum faded, leaving only the memory of every sight, sound, and feeling, vivid and comforting. Amaris curled beneath her blanket, her heart full, and closed her eyes. She drifted into sleep once more, this time not out of restlessness or need, but willingly, with a quiet anticipation for the adventures that tomorrow night and every night after would bring. The shoes waited faithfully by her bed, glowing faintly, as if to say, "Tonight we go further. Tonight the stars are yours to walk." The river of forgotten wishes. The night had fallen like a velvet curtain, heavy and soft. The shoes glowed faintly on her feet, eager and patient. She slipped them on once more, feeling their familiar warmth coiled gently around her ankles, as though welcoming her back to a world that was waiting only for her. With her first careful step, the floor melted away into shimmering starlight, and the familiar hum of the shoes sang softly in her ears, urging her onward. Tonight, she felt a subtle difference in the air, a quiet promise that something new was waiting. just beyond the next bend in her dream path. The starlit path unfurled before her, twisting and curling through fields she had seen before, yet transformed now by a strange hush. Lanterns floated lazily overhead, their glow softer, more introspective, and the air itself seemed to hold its breath. The colors in the sky were muted, leaning towards silver and pale blue, like moonlight filtered through water. With each step, the shoes carried her further into a realm that felt entirely unlike the glowing gardens and spiraling bridges she had explored before. Here, the world was quieter, heavier with anticipation, as though it had been waiting patiently for her to arrive. Eventually, the path widened into a broad clearing, and Amaris found herself standing at the edge of a river that gleamed like liquid silver. Its surface rippled gently, reflecting the faint starlight above. But within the shifting currents floated hundreds of small, glowing objects, tiny shapes that quivered as though alive. She leaned closer and realized, with a gasp, that each glimmering shape was a wish, a fragment of hope, suspended delicately on the water's surface. Some sparkled brightly, burning with vivid intention. Others were dim, almost faded, like memories of forgotten dreams. Amaris felt a flutter in her chest. The shoes pulsed faintly beneath her feet, encouraging her forward, and she stepped carefully to the river's edge. The wishes moved with the current, drifting past one another, brushing softly against her fingers whenever she reached out. Some she recognized, fleeting memories of hopes she had whispered into the night as a younger child, a secret wish for a friend who would understand her, a plea for the courage to speak up in moments of fear, the simple longing to always find joy in small things. Others she could not recognize, hints of desires that did not belong to her, yet somehow felt familiar, as though the dreams of others were bound to her by the gentle thread of empathy that had always made her sensitive to the world. She crouched low, letting her fingers brush against the surface of the river. One small, flickering wish drifted closer, almost as if it had been waiting for her. She reached in carefully and lifted it from the water. The wish was warm in her hand, faintly vibrating, and she realized that it was hers, a wish she had made long ago, when nights had felt impossibly lonely, when the house felt too quiet, and the world outside too far away. "I wish I would never feel lonely," she whispered softly, her own voice mingling with the hum of the shoes. The memory of that night, the ache of being alone rose in her chest. But instead of sadness, she felt a gentle release, as though retrieving the wish had pulled a small weight from her heart. The river responded to her touch. A ripple spread outward, silver waves shimmering across the surface. And from the mist that rose along the banks, a soft shape began to emerge. It was small at first, delicate, made entirely of starlight, and it moved with quiet grace, padding softly along the riverbank. Amaris's eyes widened as the creature came into full view. A cat, its fur a soft cascade of shimmering light, eyes like molten silver that reflected the stars themselves. It regarded her with a calm, gentle intelligence. tail flicking lazily, and then, without hesitation, brushed against her hand, purring in a sound like a bell's chime in a quiet forest. The cat's presence was immediate reassurance, a warmth that filled the hollow spaces of her chest. She knelt down, tentatively reaching out, and the creature nuzzled her fingers, then leaped gracefully onto her shoulder, balancing with an elegance that seemed impossible even for a dream. Its glow softened, mingling with the light of her shoes, and Amaris felt an unspoken understanding bloom between them. It had come to walk with her, to share in the journeys that awaited, a companion born of the river's magic and the sincerity of a long-held wish. Together, they walked along the river's edge, the shoes carrying them carefully over smooth stones and through patches of mist that swirled around their feet. The river was alive with movement, glowing fragments of other wishes brushing past as though sharing fleeting glimpses of distant hearts. Some glimmered with joy, small bursts of laughter trapped in light. Others trembled with quiet longing, echoes of hearts that had once dared to hope. Amaris realized that she could reach for these two, touch them lightly, and feel the emotions they held. She felt a warmth of connection unlike anything in the waking world, a gentle thread weaving her heart to others across time and space. The cat of starlight followed her silently, tail flicking in tandem with the gentle sway of the river's surface. Its presence was reassuring but unobtrusive, like a guardian of dreams, and every time Amaris glanced at it, she felt courage ripple through her. She wondered, silently, if this creature existed only because she had remembered her own wish. The river seemed to answer, sending a gentle ripple of light along its surface, as though whispering, "Yes, the world remembers those who dare to hope." As they wandered, the river widened, and Amaris saw islands of floating lanterns, each one containing a memory of a wish fulfilled. Some glowed brightly, radiating warmth and joy. Others shimmered faintly, their light fading as if time itself had dulled them. She stepped carefully onto one of the lantern islands, and the shoes molded perfectly to the surface, adjusting as if aware of the delicate balance required. Standing there, surrounded by the soft glow of countless hopes and dreams, she felt her chest expand with a sense of belonging. She was not alone. She had never truly been alone. She lifted the cat onto her lap, feeling its soft, luminous fur ripple with a warmth that seemed to seep into her very bones. The river whispered around them, carrying tales of courage, longing, and love, all mingled together in currents of silver light. Amaris leaned back, allowing herself to absorb it all, realizing that this place, this river of forgotten wishes, was not just a destination, but a sanctuary. Here, her heart could rest. Here, her dreams could breathe. Eventually, the path along the river curved upward, and the shoes guided her to a gentle slope where the river split into sparkling tributaries, each leading to a different part of the dream world. She could feel the pull of the wishes along each branch, faint, insistent. Amaris realized that the river was a living map of hope, a place where dreams waited to be remembered, nurtured, and sometimes carried forward into reality. She chose a tributary that gleamed softly, a silver thread leading toward a grove of trees that seemed to bend under the weight of the stars themselves. The shoes carried her with ease, adjusting to every curve of the terrain, every soft sway of the ground. The cat followed, padding silently beside her, occasionally brushing against her hand to reassure her. Amaris felt a quiet thrill of anticipation, a sense that the next step held something extraordinary. Along the tributary, she encountered more wishes, drifting lazily in the currents, some familiar, some entirely new. She reached for a particularly dim one, barely glowing, and when her fingers brushed its surface, a wave of memory washed over her. It was a wish from a long-ago neighbor, a boy who had hoped to see the world beyond their small town. The memory was faint, sweet, and fleeting, but it left her with a gentle warmth. The river seemed to shimmer in acknowledgement, sending ripples of light that danced across the surface like tiny, luminous footprints. Night wore on in her dream world, though it felt timeless, and Amaris wandered further along the tributary, carrying with her the quiet sense of belonging and wonder that had bloomed in her chest. She realized that the shoes were not merely a tool for exploration, they were a bridge. The cat of starlight remained by her side, a constant presence, occasionally pausing to gaze into the river or nuzzle her fingers, reminding her that she was never truly alone. As the first hint of dawn began to touch the horizon of her dream, a soft glow bathed the river in muted silver, and the shoes carried her gently back toward the starting point of the tributary. She paused on a small bank, looking down at the water, now filled with hundreds of flickering lights, each one a remembered wish, a spark of hope, a fragment of courage. She traced a finger through the surface, sending ripples that scattered the light in delicate waves. The cat curled beside her, its luminous form warm and comforting, and Amaris whispered softly, "Thank you for walking with me." The creature's eyes glimmered with quiet understanding, and she felt the truth of it deep in her heart, that she would not walk alone, that every step in dreams, every journey across the river, would carry her toward connection, toward discovery, toward herself. The shoes hummed softly, a gentle, pulsing sound that promised more paths, more stars, more rivers yet to explore. And as she drifted back to sleep, cradled by the magic of the river and the quiet presence of the starlit cat, Amaris felt something she had never known in the waking world, a deep, abiding sense of peace, and the certainty that every forgotten wish, every hidden hope, could one day find its way to light. The shadows lessened. The night draped the world in velvet darkness, thick and deep. As Amaris slipped her feet into the familiar glow of the magical shoes, they hummed softly against her skin, warm and steady, like a heartbeat that knew her better than she knew herself. With her first step, the floor of her room faded into the familiar ribbon of starlight, unfurling before her in gentle curves and glowing threads. Yet tonight, there was a difference. The air felt heavier, the light dimmer, as though the dream world itself held its breath in anticipation. Even the gentle cat of starlight, now a constant companion, padded silently beside her, ears perked and tail flicking in cautious alertness. The path stretched outward into darkness, more shadowed than the gentle silvers and pale blues of previous nights. Stars glimmered faintly overhead, but their light seemed hesitant, as if hesitant to pierce the creeping gloom. Amaris's shoes pulsed faintly beneath her feet, sending a steady reassurance through her legs. Each step forward was an act of trust, a quiet declaration that she would continue even when the way ahead seemed uncertain. The cat stayed close, brushing against her hand occasionally, a reminder that she was not alone. As she walked, the starlight path began to thin, strands of glowing threads fraying at the edges, flickering like candles in the wind. The mist curled in tight coils along the ground, curling up around her ankles, soft yet insistent. And then, from the shadows ahead, a shape began to emerge, figure at once familiar and unnerving. At first, she thought it was her reflection, but the posture, the sway, the very essence of it radiated something different. The figure stepped forward, and Amaris realized with a jolt that she was looking at herself, a shadowed version, made entirely of darkness and faint, shifting smoke. Its eyes glimmered with muted silver, and its voice, when it spoke, carried a resonance of fear and doubt that seemed to echo from the depths of Amaris's own heart. "You walk here as if you belong," the shadow said, voice low and quivering. "But what if you're not strong enough? What if you fail? What if you are not who you think you are?" Amaris's breath caught. Every doubt she had ever tried to suppress, the fears that had kept her awake at night, the uncertainty that gnawed at the edges of her courage rose, unbidden. She stepped back instinctively, and the shadow mirrored her movement with a cruel grace, blocking her path. The shoes hummed faintly, a soft, steady rhythm, and she felt their warmth pulse through her, a reminder that even in darkness, she had a guide. I don't know if I can." The shadow tilted its head, a silent question, and then spread its arms, a wave of darkness rippling outward. The mist thickened, and for a moment, Amaris felt herself swallowed by the void. Her heart hammered in her chest, and her mind raced with every fear she had ever held. Fear of failing, fear of being alone, fear that the dream world would reject her, as it often had in moments of uncertainty. Yet, beneath the fear, beneath the racing thoughts, she felt a quiet thread of resolve. The shoes pulsed, faintly glowing against the darkness, their warmth spreading steadily, reassuringly. They reminded her of every step she had taken before, every bridge she had crossed, every river she had walked beside. They reminded her of the courage she had already carried, even when she had doubted it. I may be afraid," Amaris said softly, taking a step forward, "but I won't stop walking." The shadow recoiled slightly at her words, as though startled by her resolve. It moved again, more insistently, this time, its smoky form flickering like a candle in the wind. "Words are easy," it said, voice sharper now. "What will you do when the fear grows?" when the path crumbles beneath your feet, when everything you thought you knew disappears. Amaris's fingers brushed against the faint glow of the shoes, and she realized that courage was not the absence of fear, it was the decision to move forward in spite of it. She lifted her chin, inhaled slowly, and stepped forward again, this time with steadier resolve. Each step sent sparks of silver light cascading from the shoes, illuminating the mist and carving a path through the darkness. The shadow hissed softly, curling around her, but she kept moving, eyes fixed on the dim glow ahead. "You are stronger than you think," she whispered to herself and to the shadow, "and I will not let you stop me." The shadow shimmered, its smoky form twisting and writhing, reflecting the turmoil of her own doubts. For a moment, it seemed to shrink, as though testing her, probing the depth of her courage. Amaris felt her heart quiver, yet she continued walking, letting the shoes guide her. Each step was deliberate, a small act of defiance against the dark version of herself that loomed like a specter. Slowly, the mist began to lift, curling away from her shoes in response to her persistence. Light returned, faint at first, then stronger, streaming from the edges of the path, as though acknowledging her bravery. The shadow recoiled, its form flickering with uncertainty, and for the first time, Amaris saw that it was not invincible. Fear, she realized, had weight only if she allowed it to anchor her. With each step she took, that weight lifted, replaced by a steady rhythm of light and courage. "You cannot stop me," she said aloud, voice firmer now. "I will face what comes. I will walk even through darkness." The shadow shrank further, its voice faltering, and in that moment, Amaris understood. Dreams, like the paths she had walked before, held both light and shadow. They could be gentle and warm, full of rivers and floating lanterns, or they could be dark and threatening, forcing her to confront every hidden fear. But courage, she realized, was the lantern that could illuminate even the darkest corners, guiding her steps and turning shadow into light. With a final, steady step, she crossed into a clearing where the darkness no longer pressed against her. Silver light pooled around her feet, spilling outward, illuminating a field of softly glowing flowers that swayed in a wind. She could not feel, but could sense in the depths of her chest. The shadow hovered at the edge of the clearing, smoky tendrils curling like fingers, but it no longer moved forward. Amaris stood tall, the cat of starlight brushing against her legs, purring softly, a steady reassurance that she was not alone. "You see," she said softly, almost to herself, "even darkness can be walked through, even fear can be faced, and courage can turn it into light." The shoes pulsed warmly, and the glow from the path strengthened, wrapping around her like a gentle embrace. The shadow quivered once more, then slowly began to dissipate, its smoky form unraveling into delicate tendrils that dissolved into the air. The darkness did not vanish entirely, it remained at the edges of the dream world, a reminder that fears and doubts would always exist, but it had lost its power over her. She could walk in spite of it, and that knowledge filled her chest with a deep, enduring warmth. Amaris moved forward into the field, each step sending sparks of silver light into the soft grass. The flowers shimmered gently, responding to her presence, and the cat of starlight followed closely, occasionally leaping to chase a wisp of glowing mist. She felt a sense of triumph, quiet but profound, knowing that she had faced a part of herself she had long avoided, and emerged stronger. The path ahead widened, and she realized it was leading her toward a bridge of light that arched gracefully across a river of softly glowing silver. Stars reflected in the water, and the gentle hum of the shoes guided her onward, steady and reassuring. The memory of the shadow lingered at the edges of her mind, not as a threat, but as a lesson that fear, when acknowledged and faced, could become a teacher. A lantern to light her way as she stepped onto the bridge. The shoes hummed in harmony with the stars, and the cat of starlight settled at her side, tail curling around her feet. Amaris felt a quiet pride in herself, a deep sense of peace that only came from walking through the unknown and choosing to keep moving. The darkness had been daunting, but it had not stopped her. She realized that every dream, every journey she embarked upon would hold shadows at times, but she now knew she could walk through them, carrying light wherever she went. Night stretched on, endless and tender, and Amaris wandered further, the path weaving through floating lanterns, silver rivers, and starlit groves. The shoes glowed steadily beneath her feet, carrying her through the dream world with a confidence she had never felt before. She smiled softly, realizing that courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to step forward even when fear existed. Every step was a testament to that courage, a small triumph that turned shadow into light. And as the first hints of dawn touched the horizon, the path softened, the stars above shimmering in gentle acknowledgement of her journey. The shadow was gone, dispersed into the edges of the dream, but its lesson remained, that darkness was not to be feared, only understood, and that even in the deepest shadow, a lantern of courage could guide the way. Amaris curled beneath her blanket in the waking world, the shoes resting by her bed, still glowing faintly with the memory of the night. She drifted into sleep once more, heart steady, knowing that the courage she had found in the shadow would accompany her in all the dream worlds yet to come. The garden of shared dreams. Night settled softly over the dream world, painting the sky in deep indigos and scattered silver stars. As Amaris once again slipped her feet into the comforting warmth of the magical shoes, they hummed beneath her toes, a gentle, steady pulse that felt like a heartbeat guiding her forward. The starlit cat padded beside her, tail curling lazily in anticipation, and together they stepped onto the familiar ribbon of glowing path that unfolded endlessly before them. Tonight the path seemed to beckon her with a special invitation, leading toward somewhere wider, more expansive, more alive than any place she had yet encountered. As she followed the path, the air began to shimmer, not with starlight alone, but with a gentle, multicolored glow that seemed to emanate from every leaf, every blade of grass. Slowly, the path widened, opening into a vast garden, unlike anything she had imagined. The flowers were immense and delicate at once, their petals glowing faintly with shifting hues, as though each one carried a fragment of someone's dream. Trees stretched toward the sky, their branches adorned with lanterns of every color, each one humming softly with hope. Streams wound through the garden, their waters reflecting the stars above, and the air was alive with faint melodies, whispers of laughter, and sighs of long-forgotten wishes. Amaris's eyes widened in wonder. The garden was alive, not just with color and light, but with the essence of countless dreamers. She stepped forward, and the shoes hummed in harmony with the garden, carrying her along soft mossy paths and over gentle hills that glimmered under her feet. She felt a deep warmth spread through her chest, a sense that she was not alone here, that the garden itself had been waiting for her presence. Soon, she noticed movement among the flowers. A figure sat beneath a willow-like tree, brush in hand, staring blankly at a canvas that shimmered faintly but showed no color. The painter's eyes were wide with frustration, shoulders slumped, a tangible weight of lost inspiration surrounding him. Amaris approached quietly, kneeling beside him. "Hello," she said softly, careful not to startle him. "Why do you sit here so sadly?" The painter glanced at her, surprise flickering in his eyes. I cannot paint," he admitted, voice small and unsure. "The colors do not come. The ideas, they have all left me." Amaris thought for a moment, then smiled gently. She lifted her shoes, their faint glow spilling into the air. "Perhaps you need to walk a while," she said. "Walk with me and see where the path leads. Inspiration sometimes hides in places we cannot yet reach." The painter hesitated. Then, tentatively, he placed his bare feet onto the glowing path of the shoes. The instant he did, the light wrapped around him, steady and warm. Together, they walked through the garden. Streams of starlight glimmered at their sides, and flowers bent gently, as if bowing in encouragement. The painter felt a stirring deep in his chest, a faint spark of color that had long been dormant. As they moved through the garden, the canvas he carried began to shimmer with new shades, light washing over it like dawn, colors reawakening as he stepped. Amaris smiled, feeling her heart lift at his wonder. She understood that the magic of the shoes was not merely in movement, but in connection, in opening pathways that had been closed, even if only in the mind. The painter paused beneath a grove of glowing tulips, eyes bright with renewed wonder. I can feel it again," he whispered. "The color stories." "Thank you." Amaris nodded, warmth filling her chest, and gently guided him back to the garden's entrance. She watched as he moved with newfound purpose, the canvas glowing with vibrant life, and then turned her gaze to a soft melody drifting from a nearby grove. There, a young singer sat, hands trembling, lips parted, yet no sound came. Her song was trapped, unable to escape. The starlit cat patted beside Amaris' ears, twitching in sympathy as Amaris approached the singer. "Why are you so silent?" she asked softly. The singer shook her head, tears glimmering in her eyes. "I cannot sing. I try, and nothing comes. My voice, it has forgotten how to soar." Amaris knelt beside her, placing a hand gently on the girl's shoulder. "Perhaps "You need a guide," she said. She lifted her shoes again, offering them with a quiet smile. "Walk with me. Let the path show you what you cannot yet hear." Hesitantly, the singer placed her feet upon the glowing shoes. Immediately, the faint shimmer spread through her body, and a soft, melodic hum began to escape her lips. The garden itself seemed to lean in closer, listening, encouraging, resonating with the harmony of her song. Every step she took along the luminous path strengthened the notes, weaving them into the air like silver threads. Amaris walked beside her, feeling the music lift her heart, understanding that helping others find their voice was as powerful as finding her own. As the singer's confidence grew, so too did the brilliance of the garden. Lanterns pulsed with light, flowers turned to face them, and even the streams seemed to shimmer with joy. Amaris watched the singer raise her arms, letting the melody flow freely, and she felt a deep sense of connection. Dreams, she realized, were never meant to be held alone. They grew brighter when shared, stronger when touched by others. Further along the garden, she noticed a traveler wandering aimlessly, his steps hesitant, eyes searching the horizon as if he could never reach his destination. His shoulders were heavy, and his gaze carried the weariness of journeys interrupted. Amaris approached, the cat of starlight padding beside her like a small beacon of reassurance. "Where are you going?" she asked. The traveler sighed, a long, heavy sound. "I have walked for years," he said, voice tinged with sadness. "I have crossed mountains, rivers, deserts, yet I never reached the place I seek. My path is lost." Amaris thought of her own journeys through the dream world, of the bridges and rivers, of the shadows she had faced and the wishes she had reclaimed. She lifted her shoes and held them out. "Perhaps you need to see the path differently," she said. "Walk with me. Let the dream guide your steps." With tentative hands, the traveler placed his feet upon the glowing shoes. Light spread through him, easing the weariness from his body, and the path before them shimmered into existence. Streams of silver light traced out a gentle route, not necessarily the one he had sought before, but one full of new discovery. He walked beside Amaris, the shoes carrying him steadily, and as he moved, the traveler's eyes brightened. The garden seemed to respond to him as it had to the painter and the singer, glowing brighter with every careful step. Amaris realized, with a quiet thrill, that her shoes were not simply hers to wear. They could guide others, illuminate paths, restore courage, and awaken hope. And in sharing them, in helping others find their own strength, her own journey felt deeper, richer, infinitely more meaningful. She understood that dreams were strongest when shared, when they became a bridge between hearts, when light passed from one soul to another, like a gentle, unbroken thread. The garden seemed to pulse with this revelation, the air thick with the mingled hopes and joys of countless dreamers. Lanterns floated in arcs of brilliant color, flowers leaned toward the travelers, and the silver streams carried the faint echoes of renewed laughter and song. Amaris walked among them, the starlit cat following faithfully, occasionally brushing against the feet of those she guided, a reminder that no journey need be taken alone. By the time the first hints of dawn touched the dreamworld horizon, The painter was painting with renewed fervor. The singer's voice carried freely on the gentle breeze, and the traveler moved with a purpose he had never known. Amaris paused at the center of the garden, lifting her eyes to the stars above. She felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude, not for the shoes, not for the magic of the dream world, but for the discovery that hope, courage, and dreams were amplified when shared. The cat of starlight curled at her feet, eyes reflecting the glow of the garden, and Amaris understood that her journey was far from over. There would be more paths to explore, more wishes to uncover, more fears to face, but she would carry this lesson forever, that the heart's journey is never solitary, that every step becomes more radiant when taken together. The shoes hummed gently, as if acknowledging the truth she had learned, and Amaris felt her heart swell with quiet joy. She lifted her hand and gently touched each traveler before stepping back, watching as they moved with newfound clarity, purpose, and light. She realized that the garden was alive not only because of its colors, flowers, and lanterns, but because of the shared dreams that had flowed through it, and she felt a deep, enduring connection to each one, a quiet certainty that every soul who wandered here could carry their dream forward, strengthened by the touch of another's courage. As she began to drift back along the luminous path toward the waking world, the garden behind her shimmered with soft, multicolored light, echoing her steps. The painter, the singer, the traveler moved with renewed hope, each carrying a fragment of the shared journey she had helped ignite. Amaris felt the truth settle within her, quiet and unshakable, that dreams, even the smallest, faintest ones, were never truly solitary. They grew brighter, stronger, and more radiant when held together, when shared with those brave enough to step onto the path beside you. The shoes hummed softly, their glow fading only slightly as she returned to her bedroom. She placed them carefully by her bed, feeling the lingering warmth and the quiet assurance that the dream world would wait for her. The cat of starlight curled at her side, a gentle reminder that companionship, courage, and hope were always closer than they seemed. As she closed her eyes, a smile touched her lips, and she drifted into sleep with a heart fuller than it had ever been, knowing that the garden and the shared dreams within it would always be a part of her journey. Walking into dawn, the first hints of dawn brushed the edges of the horizon, softening the edges of the world with pale pink and golden streaks. A delicate mist curled among the trees and over the cobblestones of the quiet village, catching the early light in gentle, silvery threads. In that hush of the morning, where the air still carried the weight of night and yet held the promise of a new day, Amaris walked barefoot, her glowing shoes tucked carefully in her satchel. She carried them not out of need, but as a quiet reminder of the journey she had traveled, the emblem of every step that had brought her closer to herself. The streets were empty, as if the village itself were still dreaming. Birds began to stir, their soft calls weaving into the gentle rustle of leaves. Amaris's feet, though bare, felt lighter than ever, as if the earth beneath her recognized her quiet awakening. Every step was a whisper, a soft conversation with the morning, and in the air lingered a faint shimmer echoes of the glow the shoes had once given her. She paused at the corner of an old fountain, watching the water ripple in silver arcs as it caught the first touch of sun. The memory of the cobbler's shop rose within her, the warm scent of leather and polished wood, the soft glow of lanterns casting 1,000 tiny suns across the floorboards, and his quiet, knowing smile. She could see him now, standing a little ways off, leaning against the frame of the cobbler's shop door. He seemed older, the lines of time etched gently into his face, his movements slower yet steadier, as though the rhythm of life itself had softened around him. He watched her with eyes that held both pride and gentle farewell. Amaris felt a flutter in her chest, an ache of both gratitude and a bittersweet understanding. She had come to the end of the chapter the shoes had written for her, yet the story itself would continue. Etched in her own heartbeat, Amaris, he said, his voice low and tender, carrying the warmth of countless quiet evenings spent stitching dreams into the seams of shoes. You no longer need them. The dreams you walked into, the stars you've touched in silence, they are yours now. They live within you. Amaris felt a shiver of wonder. She opened her satchel, holding the shoes gently. Their soft glow dimmed now, as if content with having fulfilled their purpose. She set them on the edge of the fountain, letting the morning light touch them. There was no sadness in this farewell, only a quiet, radiant satisfaction, like the last notes of a song that linger in the heart even after silence falls. With a deep, calming breath, Amaris stepped forward. Her movements were slow, deliberate, as if each footfall were a line of poetry being written across the awakening village. And yet, with every step, there was lightness, a buoyancy that made her feel untethered, free from the weight she had carried for so long. She felt the rhythm of her own heart as clearly as the pulse of the earth beneath her feet. And it was a rhythm she could trust. As she walked, the world around her seemed to transform. The morning mist lifted in soft swirls, revealing the quiet beauty of familiar streets, each one now bathed in gold. Windows glimmered with reflections of the sun's first rays, and the scent of dew and wildflowers filled the air. It was as though the village itself were celebrating this gentle passage from night to day, honoring the small but profound miracle of someone stepping fully into their own light. Amaris's footsteps began to leave faint traces of gold, as if the memory of the shoes had seeped into her skin. The footprints shimmered for a moment before dissolving into the cobblestones, like whispers of a dream, fading yet leaving their essence behind. With each step, she felt a growing sense of harmony with the world, a resonance that seemed to hum quietly beneath the surface of every stone, every leaf, every drop of morning dew. The cobbler followed her silently at a distance, a gentle figure framed against the golden glow of the awakening village. He watched as she moved with grace and certainty, as though the weight of doubt and restlessness that had once tugged at her shoulders had melted into the dawn itself. He knew, with that quiet, unspoken certainty that only comes from witnessing a journey to its gentle conclusion, that she had grown beyond the need for the magical shoes. She had discovered that dreams were not gifts to be worn, but seeds to be nurtured, planted deep within the soil of the heart. Amaris paused at the edge of a small garden tucked behind the fountain, where wildflowers bent gracefully under the touch of the sun. She knelt for a moment, letting her hands brush against the soft petals, feeling their warmth and the subtle vibration of life pulsing beneath them. She thought of all the dreams she had chased, the ones that had once seemed so distant and unattainable, and she realized they were not far away at all. They had been with her all along, nestled within her courage, her curiosity, and the quiet, unshakable belief that she could step into the world with wonder in her heart. She stood again, brushing her hands gently on her dress, and looked at the cobbler. He nodded, his eyes gleaming with a mix of pride and tender farewell. He had given her more than shoes. He had given her the space to find herself, to discover that the true magic was never in the glow that lit the path outside, but in the spark that had always been inside her. The streets were alive now with the gentle stirrings of the waking world. A few early risers wandered past, nodding or offering quiet greetings, unaware of the extraordinary journey that had walked invisibly among them. Amaris smiled softly at each familiar face, sensing a quiet reflection of the wonder she carried within her. Even the ordinary seemed extraordinary now. The way the morning light struck a window, the glint of water in a bird bath, the soft rustle of leaves stirred by a waking breeze. Everything felt alive, resonant, and deeply connected to the rhythm of her own heart as she approached the edge of the village, where the fields opened into the horizon and the sky stretched wide and endless above. Amaris slowed her steps. The rising sun painted the clouds in shades of coral and gold, and the wind carried a gentle warmth that seemed to embrace her from every side. She took a long, steady breath, savoring the air, the light, and the profound quiet that came with the moment before the world fully stirred. She stepped into the field, the tall grasses brushing against her legs, the flowers swaying gently in greeting. Her feet sank into the soft earth, warm and tender beneath her, and with each step she felt the echo of every journey she had ever taken. She remembered the quiet nights of longing, the fear of stepping into the unknown, the moments of awe when the world revealed its magic in small, luminous fragments. All of it had led to this morning, this gentle, unspoken understanding that life itself was a mosaic of wonder, stitched together by the courage to dream, each step leaving a fleeting shimmer in the grass, golden footprints that faded yet lingered in memory. The sun rose higher, spilling its light over the landscape, and for a moment, time seemed to stretch infinitely. She felt a profound sense of belonging, not just to the village or the world around her, but to the flow of life itself. She was part of the rhythm, a single note in an immense, infinite symphony that resonated with quiet joy and soft, enduring beauty. The cobbler watched from the edge of the village, his hands folded, a small, contented smile resting on his face. He knew that his role in her story had reached its natural end. The shoes had guided her steps, but the dreams she now carried could not be given. They could only be lived, nurtured, and allowed to grow. He felt a quiet gratitude for having witnessed this transformation, a gentle warmth that filled his heart and lingered long after she had disappeared from view. Amaris continued walking, her eyes lifted to the vast expanse of sky. She could feel the pulse of dawn in her veins, the soft hum of life threading through her very being. With every step, the weight of night and uncertainty slipped further from her shoulders, replaced by the serene knowledge that she had found her own path. She felt a quiet laughter in her chest, a soft, uncontainable joy that came from knowing she could move forward, carrying the light of dreams not as an external glow, but as an enduring radiance within her own heart. Eventually, she paused, looking back at the village she had called home for so long. The streets glowed faintly with the memory of her passage, though the footprints had faded entirely. She smiled softly, knowing that magic did not live in visible traces alone. It lived in the quiet courage to follow the heart, to embrace the unknown, and to step lightly into each new day with wonder and trust. With a final deep breath, Amaris turned forward once more. The horizon stretched endlessly before her, painted with the warm hues of sunrise and the subtle whispers of wind through the fields. She began to walk again, not with haste, but with a measured grace, each step echoing with the unspoken promise that she would carry the magic of dreams wherever she went. The cobbler remained behind, a gentle silhouette against the awakening world, knowing that she would forever carry the glow of her own becoming as the sun climbed higher. Casting long golden rays across the land, Amaris felt a profound peace settle over her. She no longer needed the glowing shoes to illuminate her path. She had learned to walk in the quiet light of her own heart, to carry dreams like seeds, planting them in every small act of wonder, every gentle word, every step into the unknown. And in that quiet, radiant understanding, she knew that life itself was a dream worth walking into, step by luminous step, with eyes wide open and heart unafraid. By the time she reached the crest of the gentle hill overlooking the distant forests and sparkling rivers, the village below had become a soft tapestry of color, life, and memory. Amaris paused once more, letting the wind kiss her cheeks, letting the sun warm her skin, letting the quiet hum of the world settle in her soul. She smiled softly, knowing that in every waking moment she could choose to walk lightly, carry dreams with her, and leave gentle footprints that might not always be seen, but would always be felt. And as she took her final step into the morning, a step that felt as eternal as it did fleeting, the cobbler's words echoed in her mind. The dreams now live inside you. She closed her eyes for a heartbeat, feeling the weight of those words settle deep into her being. Then, opening them to the vast expanse of dawn, she walked forward, carrying the soft, luminous echo of 1,000 dreamlit nights, stepping fully, joyfully into the new day, even in the waking world. Amaris felt lighter, her steps filled with quiet wonder, her heart aligned with the rhythm of dreams. She had walked through stars, through whispered paths of night and magic, and emerged into the morning, whole and radiant, ready to live each day as a dream worth stepping into. And in that quiet certainty, the world itself seemed to sigh with contentment, as if recognizing the beauty of one small, luminous soul learning to walk fully in the light of her own becoming. And as the sun rises, dear dreamers, remember, the magic of your dreams is always within you. Walk gently into tomorrow, carrying wonder, calm, and joy. Sleep softly, and may your dreams tonight be bright and full of wonder. Good night from Whispers of the Night.